Welcome to episode 411 of the DFO Rundown, as always brought to you by Bet365. It's never ordinary. Get in the game at Bet365, NHL, NFL. You've got MLB playoffs and more. It's never ordinary. Bet365. Use the promo code NATION, NATION, to get in our wide range of games. I'm Jason Gregor, as we are joined by Jeff Marek on the road with the excellent hotel decor in the background. In Washington. Oh my God! Hotel walls, man, they're the best. Oh, they're the best.
It's a really nice spot too. I'm just hot and cold on the wallpaper behind me. First of all, the first visuals right now on this show today, Jason Gregor, is your shirt, which for my money, that's
Sabres, baby. They've won two in a row.
But it's the best logo. Like that original Sabres, the original swords, like that is the best logo in the NHL, period. Like that is one thing that 100% the Buffalo Sabres always have nailed. That original look. To me, there's nothing finer. But then I always remind myself, am I just saying that because I grew up in southwestern Ontario and I still hear the voice of Ted Darling every time I watch the Buffalo Sabres, and I love the French Connection and, Larry Playfair and King Concorab and Jim Schoenfeld and all these guys, Danny Gare. So I don't know if it's nostalgia or I just love it, but I think that it might be the best logo in the history of the NHL. How about that for a statement?
I do love that one, but I will put the Hartford Whalers logo up against it. The whale tail was unreal. Loved it, especially the green and white. When they went to the blue jersey, that was a terrible decision by the organization and probably what led to them leaving. Maybe not, but that's what I like to believe.
I find that there's, and this is why I love when the Minnesota Wild do their Minnesota North Stars retro. I just find that there's a complete absence of green in the game itself. And I'm not talking about the ice or the boards or anything drastic like that, but I'm just talking about like on jerseys. There's just it's such a great and soothing color for your eyes, and it looks so cool. No one uses it. It's always the race to black. Nobody wants to use green. No one at all. But anyway, it's for a different show. It's a long-winded way, Jason, of me saying, awesome shirt, dude. Awesome shirt.
Oh. Thanks. Well, hey, but break up the Sabres, buddy. For a team that desperately needed 2 wins to turn down the Heat in Buffalo, they got 2 big wins. Good for them. You are in Washington, so let's start there.
Sure.
The Capitals and the Canucks. Canucks get up to a 4-0 lead, end up winning the game 4-3. They lose 2 players to injury. What's your thoughts on the Wilson hit on Chytil?
I didn't have a problem with it. I thought what the officials did with this one was appropriate and right. Call it so you can have the review. And I mean, if we're really splitting hairs here on this one, it's maybe like a split half smidgen of a half second too late, but you're really slicing a hair finely here. I didn't have an issue with it. I thought it was a player that was admiring his past. Now, we all get sensitive about it, obviously, because it's Filip Chytil, and we all know the concussion history, and we know the injury history, and we know how vital the second-line center is to the Vancouver Canucks. So a lot of things look bad here for Vancouver, but the hit itself, and I know I'm not making any fans here with the Vancouver crowd, but I don't know, man. Don't look at your past. You're skating through the neutral zone. Tom Wilson's on the ice. It wasn't late for me at all. I may be in the minority on this one, but I didn't see a problem with this hit. This was one of those reminders that, and I think we get this every now and then when we see a hit like this. Every now and then we got to be reminded that this is still not just a contact league, but a collision league, and it's played by very large, strong, dangerous men. And if you take your eyes off where they should be at any time, that kind of violence might happen to you. It doesn't happen very often. There are only a few guys that hit like that, but Tom Wilson is definitely one of them. You just cross your fingers and you hope that Filip Chytil is okay. What did you think?
I honestly, I didn't see it live. Wasn't watching the game. Then I saw the replay. Went on my watched it on television. Now I watch it in real time. Anybody who argues in slow motion, you ruin everything. Like the minute you're arguing about, oh, here's a video in slow motion, you've lost all credibility. The game isn't played in slow motion. Watch it in real time. And from the time Chytil passes the puck, we could put it on the screen right now. It's 1/1000 and pop. That's allowed. That's legal. You watch it. It comes up here. Pass one. Boom. Like that's fast. The game is super fast. He doesn't hit him in the head. He hits him clearly in the chest. Chytil's head doesn't go back, thankfully. So maybe that's better, for him, because a lot of times you have the whiplash can really lead to issues. And I know that Chytil has concussion history, so that sucks. But that doesn't make the hit more dangerous. If he would have hit Jake DeBrusk, you either don't like the hit or you like the hit. The recipient is, to me, irrelevant. I think that's his feet are down. He glides. He doesn't keep his feet moving. You can't give him a charging call. I think he did everything right that's legal in the game, and hockey's a contact sport, and it's too bad. And I hope he just, had the wind knocked out of him, so they're being cautionary. But I thought the officials on the ice got it right. There's nothing wrong with that hit.
Yeah, I think you mentioned something really key there. That's not a charge. He glides, he coasts into him. Mind you, he already has a full head of steam. Wilson is at that point. Wilson's got a full head of steam before he hits Chytil, but he stops skating. And he's bracing for what he knows is going to be contact. But it's not like stride, jump. We've seen that before. That is not this. This was a guy who is chasing down the player with the puck and meets him in a way where he doesn't make contact with his head at all. To me, this is a good hit. And if you want to quibble about how late it was, I'm with you. Watch it in real time. Like, I watched it. I was at the game Sunday afternoon, and it was fast. Like, when you're watching, you know what it's like when you watch live. Things are happening so quickly. It's like it's off his stick and bam, Wilson gets him. Like, that's how fast it seemed at that time. He was committed to the hit. He committed. Like, one of the keys is he had committed to the hit when Chytil still had the puck on his blade, and then he released the puck, and that split second after, he gets hit. Again, I get it about Chytil, and he had a great preseason, and Jim Rutherford before the offseason talked about it's going to be expensive to go get a second line center, but it's going to be more expensive not to get a second line center. You look at this and you say, I really hope that the Chytil's okay and can come back, and Vancouver doesn't say, man, you know what, it really is more expensive not to get a second line center. But anyway, main thing, hope that Chytil's okay.
Yeah. The Canucks, though, they've won 3 in a row. Elias Pettersson scored a goal, opened up the scoring today.
Yes.
So that's good news for them. Also, Kiefer Sherwood, man, what a signing that's been for the Canucks. He was great last year for them, obliterated the hits record in the National Hockey League. He's got 4 goals already this season. There's a guy that could be due for a significant raise because he's a unique player with the skill set and the physicality. There's just not lots of them around. And obviously, if I'm Vancouver, I'd like to re-sign him. But, the Canucks, after, a game, before they played in Edmonton, they kind of got schooled, and Demko stood on his head and kept him in the game. Since then, they've been pretty good. And now they've won 3 in a row. And they're sitting good. They needed a good start. And at 4-2, the Canucks are off to a pretty decent start.
The Dallas game was so important for them. Like, this is a tough stretch for them here, right? Like that Dallas game really showed the Vancouver Canucks to themselves who they were. That was the one you look at and you say, "Oh man, like this. Let's not kick this off with a doozy," because, as you know, the Dallas Stars can really wreck teams bluntly. And I thought this game against the Washington Capitals Sunday afternoon was the same. Like, let's not forget, the Washington Capitals had just ripped off 4 wins in a row. They were looking great. Everything was firing. I mean, I'll tell you, everybody in the rink is waiting for Ovechkin to score 2 more goals. It's even in a losing cause, if he would have had 1 goal and gotten that much closer, sure, it's a loss, but everyone's talking about Ovechkin getting to 900 here. Things have been working out great for this Washington Capitals team. Like, honestly, though, Jason, they just look flat. Like, the first 2 periods, Washington came out nothing. You've seen these games before. Tom Wilson fans on a one-timer in front of the net. Puck going off heels, puck going off toes. not being able to passes. It wasn't until they really got to desperation hockey in the third that the Washington Capitals really came alive. But by then, the Vancouver Canucks had built up a 4-goal lead, and it was a foregone conclusion in this one, although they made a nice late charge. Washington did. I'll tell you what, to your point about Kiefer Sherwood, and there's one team that I think about specifically here, and that's Anaheim. It sounds very much to me like the minute they let go of Kiefer Sherwood, they started looking for another Kiefer Sherwood. Like he's the kind. Like I'm glad that you brought him up, because there's only so many players like Kiefer Sherwood, and from what I'm told about him is he has this health situation whereby, like, I think like his gloves give him a rash, so he has to wear like almost surgical gloves underneath his hockey gloves, and he's grown up with it. But what he's done is he's turned this like negative, because he has to like watch every tiny little thing that he eats and everything. He's turned it into, what I'm told from people that have been around him, is he's turned this into this incredible positive in his life where, you always talk about, you hear coaches and executives talk about attention to details. He's not just an attention to detail guy in his game, but he's an attention to detail guy in his life because he has to be, and he's translated that into his game. Like, he doesn't do anything frivolously. He does, everything the proper, like, that's just like the ethic that he's developed in his life that he's carried over into hockey. He only knows how to do things. And he's not the most skilled player in the NHL, right? He's not going to be perennial all-star in the NHL, but there's room for Kiefer Sherwood on 32 NHL teams. And a lot of it is because he's taken what some would look at as almost like a negative in their life and turned it into a positive. Guys like that, you can't help but cheer for. He's one of my favorite players. I love Kiefer Sherwood. He's a really easy guy to cheer for, and I love stories like that. So I'm glad you brought him up.
Yeah, well, you know what? And good for him. He's going to get a big payday, and he's earned it. He's played incredibly well. And hey, good for the Canucks. They needed a good start. They want to get back into things. There's an organization we talked about in the offseason that this is a big season for them because of Quinn Hughes. And if you get back to being competitive again, your chances of retaining him obviously will increase significantly. So we'll see where they go.
One quick follow-up to Jonathan Lecker. He left the game as well. Yes. He was hit by Matt Roy. It looked like he was favoring his right shoulder. He was able, and good on him, to clear the puck before going off. But nice win by the Vancouver Canucks. But we worry and wonder about Filip Chytil and Jonathan Lecker here. Mark Besser did for personal reasons, as Patrick Alvin announced before the game.
Now, Carolina, still the only undefeated team left, as the Dallas had lost to Vancouver. I do want to get to a Western team. It is early, and I want to classify it's very early. And I think a lot of us didn't even have this team in the mix at all, but it's 5 games into the season. They've yet to lose in regulation. They're 3-0-2. They got a new coach, and the Seattle Kraken look like a much different team under Lane Lambert than they did last year.
It's hard, I was having this conversation with some people yesterday, and we're all wondering. I'm curious your thoughts about this one. Again, under the caveat, or with the caveat that it's early. Are the Seattle Kraken actually good? And right now, like you and I last year had the conversation about Shane Wright and how good this guy can be. That was the best game he's played last night or Saturday. That was the best game that he's played. That game against Toronto Maple Leafs, that was Shane Wright's best game in the NHL. Vince Dunn is healthy again. That's obvious. You look at the contributions that they're getting up and down the lineup. Johnny Newman, for one. Big body, he's got the heavy shot, but is also, being a disruptor in front of the net. Like, I don't know what it is about what Lane Lambert has done here, but it seems as if whatever Lambert's done is playing to all the strengths of the Seattle Kraken, and whereby, some coaches might, because we keep hearing Lane Lambert players coach. Some coaches previously may have had a way that they wanted to play, and whether you could play it or not, damn it, this is the way we were going to play, which I kind of liken to going to a hat shop and finding only one hat, so you force it on your head and say, well, I need a hat, damn it. And this is the only hat in the store, damn it. So I'm going to make it fit, damn it. Where Lane Lambert kind of comes in and says, you know what, we're going to play to your strength, and these are the things you're going to do. And we're not going to expose you here. We're not going to expose. Now, we should mention too, with Seattle, it's a lot easier to do that when you're getting goaltending like Joey Decord's giving them. Joey Decor has been one of the early season stories here. And I can recall going to Brampton. I live about 40 minutes out of away from Brampton, and going to the Brampton Beast games a couple of times in the ECHL and seeing Joey Decor and thinking to myself, there comes a time in everybody's career where you have to make a decision. And the question is this: should I quit or work harder? And a lot of guys face that difficult conversation when you're in the ECHL, right? And you look around the room and you go like, okay, this guy doesn't want to grow up, but he probably should. This guy doesn't want to grow up, but he probably should. This guy doesn't want to grow up, but he probably should. It's time I make that decision. Should I quit or work harder? And sometimes, and we don't like to talk about this, sometimes the right answer, Jason, is you should probably quit. Because it's not everything is going to be a miracle story. But you love players that bet on themselves. And we just talked about, cheering for players like Kiefer Sherwood. Here's a guy that found himself playing a dozen games in the ECHL with the Brampton Beast in front of a costume party house where everybody came dressed up as an empty seat. And he probably had that conversation with himself. Do I need to quit or do I need to work harder? For Joey Decor, he decided to work harder, and it's paid off right now. And he's become one of the great early stories of this hockey season. So as much as I gush about all these different things that Lane Lambert has done, and I believe it, like, trust me, from what I'm told, Lane Lambert's a special coach for this team right now. It's pretty easy to be a good coach when you have a really good goaltender too. You've heard the old saying, show me a good goalie, I'll show you a good coach. Look at Seattle, and I'm sure Lane Lambert would say the same thing.
It definitely helps. There's no question. And good for Seattle. They want another team who I think just didn't want to be written off early on, and they are definitely not. Another team that is off to a great start, led by Jack Eichel. Jack Eichel is tearing up the league. Him and Mark Stone as a duo are absolutely killing it. The only problem is Stone left the game on the weekend against Calgary, and their head coach said, probably no more on Monday. Didn't give a great assessment of that. We see Stone on the bench, and obviously it's his left wrist or hand. He left, didn't come back. And, it's really too bad because Mark Stone is just one of those guys. And it's just when he fell and how he fell awkwardly. Like, it's such a weird looking injury. And so hopefully it's nothing serious. But, man, like Mark Stone, it just seems he always finds a way to get nicked up, unfortunately. And this one was a very weird injury. He had first 2 goals a year. And 2 assists. He was playing great. Like, him and Eichel have been easily the best line in the NHL. It's not even close with Barbashev. And if they lose him, that's a big blow. Now, somebody's going to get the chance in Vegas to take his place on that top line, which would help out. But, man, if Stone's out for any period of time here, that's a huge blow because he and Eichel together were just absolutely killing teams.
Absolutely true. Do you always find... Like, I always look at injuries like that in these seemingly, nothing plays to be more worrisome than like the big hit, right? Or the big blocked shot. You know what I mean? Like, when you see an injury like that, where he just, like, to your point, he just fell in that game against Calgary. Injuries like that always give me cause for pause. And I always look at that and go, oh man, that's got to be bad, because it's just him falling, and if him just falling and injuring his wrist to that point, it can't just be a little nick or a little bruise or something short term. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I'm not sure if you're the same way. Whenever I look at little injuries like that on little innocuous plays, I say to myself, that's bad. Because those like freakish kind of innocent looking plays, you know what I mean, Jason? Like they usually end up being worse than they probably should. And I just, like everybody, cross their fingers, and I cross my fingers that it's not anything serious or anything long term. But I think, Mark Stone is at a place in his career right now where you kind of have to bake into the pie that if he makes it through an entire season, that's great. But can you really go into a season expecting Mark Stone to play 82 games or 80 games or 78 games. I'm not sure we're there. I can recall working deadline with Doug McLean, and when Ottawa made that trade with Vegas and did the extension, Doug McLean said that, and this was like on camera, I'm not telling tales out of school here. Doug said something that always stuck with me. He said, that is both the best and worst contract at the same time in the NHL right now. I said, what do you mean? He goes, right now they're getting the best players in the NHL, and that's a bargain price they're paying for him. But later on in his career, that one's going to be a tough one for the Vegas Golden Knights. And I've always thought about that. That is both the best and worst contract in the NHL.
Huh.
But
yeah, well,
when he's playing, you're right. He's elite. Yeah. Probably should have a Selke trophy or two along the way, but he's a winger. We don't do that with wingers, apparently.
Yeah, and not so. But that's the big injury news to watch for. Also, injury news for a team that couldn't afford it. The LA Kings lose Kopitar. He's week to week, and week to week now could be 6 weeks, that could be 8 weeks. The Kings are off to a terrible start, and now they lose their captain in Kopitar. And this thing could get it's going to go two ways here. They're either going to tank, or what we see sometimes in sports is where they rally, because now they're like, dude, everybody's got to look in the mirror and pick up the pieces. But that Kopitar injury could be massive for the LA Kings, who are already off to a slow start. It's
a couple of things interesting about Kopitar. One, and this is mainly because a lot of reporters and hockey media people in the East generally aren't staying up on a consistent basis to watch the Los Angeles Kings or many of the California teams that late. But he's flat out, has been for a number of years, flat out, as close to a perfect two-way player, this side of Patrice Bergeron or Alexander Barkov. To the replacement, this is going to be a lot on Quentin Byfield. This is going to be even more on Philip Deneau. This is a chance for Alex Turcotte maybe to finally distinguish himself in the NHL. I'll tell you what, if you go and you look at that game against the Carolina Hurricanes, let me just call it up here quickly. If you have a look at that game against the Carolina Hurricanes, their face-off percentage 37.8. Now, I know Carolina's a really good face-off team, so that might be a mitigating factor here, but that one's going to really sting for the Los Angeles Kings. They're going to miss Kopitar in a lot of ways, and I think that's a significant one as well. But the thing about Kopitar that we should really pay attention to is Jason, this guy doesn't get hurt.
No.
That's what makes this one so weird. You look at if you go to his games played every year, 82, 82, 82, 75, 82, 82, 79, 81, 82, 81, 81, 82, 81, 80, he doesn't miss games. He's been a tremendous two-way player, and it's not as if he's a shrinking violet or anything. He doesn't shy away from it, but he's been one of the most durable players in the NHL. Season in, season out, always in the conversation for the Selke, and he doesn't get hurt. That's why this one is, and again, it's a shot in the foot. That's why this one is so weird, because this guy does not get injured. That's been one of the great calling cards of Anze Kopitar.
Well, he's only missed 13 games in the last 12 years. Prior to this injury. And it's funny, the season, that's one game a year. The season he actually, and then he missed one game in 2013. So it's even, I should even add that in the so you look at 7, his rookie year is the year he missed the most. He missed 10 games. He played 72 out of 82. Other than that, he's missed 7, 1, 3, 1, 6, 1, 1, 1, 1.
Yeah.
Wild. That is, it's probably, it gets overlooked. If dependability, availability is massively important. And so, for the LA Kings, they're going to have to get going here, because the Kings, the teams that they were probably battling, Vancouver's off to a good start. Seattle's off to a very surprising start. Right. And, Utah is slightly ahead of them. And so the Kings have only won once in their in their first 6 games. It's not ideal. And now you take out Kopitar. That's, to me, this is a massive turning point. I think you could easily say the next 3 weeks might be the Kings season. Yay or nay?
It might be. I mean, you can't make the playoffs this early, but you can fall out of them. And it's, as you well know, it's tough to climb back. The other sidebar to all of this too is I don't think anyone in Los Angeles wants, Anze Kopitar's last season to be like this. No. To struggle and not to make it, and we'll see what happens with the duration of the injury here. I do wonder how much, or if there is any extra pressure on Ken Holland to sort of, do things that otherwise you might not, just because you don't want to send Jay Kopitar into retirement on a negative note with your team. Yeah. Like you don't want him. You don't want game 82 to be his last hurrah and his last farewell to everybody. You know what I mean? Like, and I think everyone around the NHL is the same way. This, if we know he's going out this year, this is going to be his end, but I don't think anybody wants him to go out like this with an underperforming team that's 1-3-2 to kick off the season. I don't think anybody wants that. No way. I know I don't.
No, that would be the worst for him. I do want to ask you for fun, Jeffrey. Okay. I know you like the stats of the league. Do you know how many NHL franchises currently don't have somebody who's scored 1,000 points for their franchise in their career?
Who don't have someone who scored 1,000 points? Well, the Columbus Blue Jackets, the Nashville Predators, the Minnesota Wild.
Yep, 3.
New Jersey Devils.
No, they got Patrick Elias.
Elias got the 1,000. Those would be the ones off the top of my head. Oh, Seattle Kraken, Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah, Vegas, so there's 5.
Those are the tap-ins. How many more?
Now Utah, of course, because they're a new franchise. But even if you put Utah with Arizona/Winnipeg, they'd still be in because Shane Doan has that franchise record of 972. But they are separate, so they're 1. Yeah. The Florida Panthers, Barkov leads them with 782. The Winnipeg Jets, Mark Scheifele just set their franchise record at 813, and he'll get there because he's signed his extension, so he should get there. And here's the other one, Jeff, that probably surprises a lot of people. Original 6 team, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Yeah. Matt Sundin leads them with 987 points. So you look at Mark Scheifele's currently ahead now of Austin Matthews. So if the way that rolls on, then Winnipeg should have a 1,000-point player before the Toronto Maple Leafs do. And Matthews would probably have to sign an extension because of how much time he has left on that. Well, I guess no, he should be able to get there even before this year and the following 2 seasons. But Mark Scheifele passes Blake Wheeler on the weekend. And, that's a big milestone for him. And I look at Scheifele and the start he's off to, he's really putting himself in that conversation to be on Team Canada for the Olympics. He
was sour from what I'm told, and rightfully so. Like, that's what you want from your superstars, that he wasn't on the Four Nations team. Oh, yeah. Like, someone mentioned that to me, and I fully believe it because I know how committed Mark Scheifele is. Like, he's the 24/7 hockey guy. Some guys at the end of the season won't watch hockey, won't watch, whatever happens in the playoffs, or if they get bounced in the first round, they're not going to watch the rest of the playoffs. They need to turn hockey off. The thing about Scheifele is he's the 24/7 guy. He is all in, always has been, lives it, breathes it, talks about it. It is his life. It is his profession. It is like, that's one of the things that we love about Mark Scheifele. I can recall it was the 2011 draft, the Ryan Nugent-Hopkins draft, and the Winnipeg Jets were selecting 7th overall. And do you remember who the big expectation was that the Winnipeg Jets were going to select at 7th overall? Like, everybody's ready for it. Sean Couturier, who still would have been a great pick. Remember, he's taking over. We're getting Couturier, big center from Drummondville, and he took Mark Scheifele from the Barrie Colts, which has turned out to be a tremendous selection for them. But I mean, he's playing his way, like he's playing this year. Like there's a lot of guys this year that are playing, and then thankfully they're all being honest about it. Like there's no, I can't think about the Olympics. I'm just focused on my team and the next game and blah, blah, blah. Poppycock. And at least you're starting to see players say like, yeah, this is in the back of my mind. Yeah, this is, I want to make this team. Yeah, I want to have that Olympic experience. Like there's a lot of things that you check off as an elite player, or just as a hockey player in general. First goal, first fight, first playoff game, first whatever, first trophy, all those things, first outdoor game. Like when you get through an NHL career, you want to look back and say like, yeah, I checked all the boxes that I wanted to check. I think Olympics for someone like Mark Scheifele is massive. Right. I mean, I think that Olympics, and the one guy that I always think of who was, sort of always scotched by it is Steven Stamkos, who was, one of the best players of his era. And, because of injury, was never able to represent Team Canada at the Olympics. And for someone like Scheifele, who's the all-in hockey guy, stuff like this matters to him. Four Nations would have mattered to Mark Scheifele. I don't even think that he cares where he plays. Fourth line wing, fine. I don't care. I just want to be there. But you're right. And like a player possessed by something that is even, more than just, I want the Winnipeg Jets to have a successful season. I think you're bang on, Jason. I think that this guy's playing with the ferocity of someone that knows he's probably a bubble player when it comes to selection time, and he's going to make sure he gives himself the best possible chance and puts forward the best body of work to make the decision really, really hard. Because listen, you've seen it, we've all seen it, and every country does it. You always want to bring aboard some new faces for a lot of these tournaments just to have that experience. And I think Mark Scheifele doesn't want to be one of those veterans that gets sacrificed for a younger player getting that experience for not just these Olympics, but for the next ones as well. Does that make sense?
Oh God, yeah, totally. No, he's you to me, that'd be motivation for lots of players, and anybody saying otherwise, I think would be somewhat foolish. We're going to get to Pat Puff in a second, but there's one player I want to talk about, and it hasn't been discussed. They're off to a very good start, but the Colorado Avalanche, their starting goaltender hasn't played. Blackwood's been banged up, and Scott Wedgewood has come in and been phenomenal. He's 5-0-1. He's got a .938 save percentage, a 1.48 goals against average, and I had to shut out him. And the Avs are off to a good start. I thought they were a really good team, but I don't think anybody thought, they'd be there without Blackwood. But Scotty Wedgewood right now, you can make a strong argument. He's been the best goalie in the NHL the first 2 weeks.
He's been excellent. I mean, it would be tough to argue Shesterkin. I mean, he's been fantastic, obviously for the New York Rangers, but he's Igor Shesterkin. He's the best goaltender in the world. But yeah, again, we've seen it's one thing to have a great stretch of games, but you know what the pressure of being a starting goaltender is like. Right, like the backup goaltender is everybody's best friend, and everything is fun, and stay out for shots, and part of your job is to be the good guy on the team that everybody likes. The worst attribute you can have as a backup goaltender is to be sour, someone that no one really wants to have around the team. That's what made Johan Hedberg so great. Like everybody loved Moose on their team, and he was a good goaltender too. But I'm really, really happy for Wedgewood. It's a great run here, and don't look now, but once again, we're talking about the Colorado Avalanche as being Stanley Cup contenders. I think we looked at them, like when they won the Stanley Cup, there was a feeling that was going to be the first of many. And the following year, they got beaten by the Seattle Kraken in the first round, and they've been kind of stuck, kind of frozen ever since. I think a lot of us liked when McFarland did last year, when he totally swapped out two goaltenders and brought in a whole new crease. And Wedgewood is obviously a big part of it. I'm happy for him. I don't know that it's going to be, game one of the playoffs and unless it's injury, it's going to be Scott Wedgewood between the pipes, but great start. And listen, bank your wins early, as we've heard before, and Wedgewood's given the Colorado Avalanche a reason to be in all the games that they've been in. I'm happy. I'm happy for them. Like, there have been some good performances from goalies that we've thought have been, just quote unquote backups. I think of Dan Vladar with the Philadelphia Flyers, who's been good as well. Jake Allen has been good for the Jersey Devils, although he was, good last year. And like Cam Talbot's taken the crease with Detroit. So it's one of the sort of underground stories here to kick off the season has been the rise of the quote unquote backup goaltender. Oh, one thing, speaking of goalies, really quick, if you'll indulge me, and this is more as a tribute to the t-shirt you're wearing with the Buffalo Sabres logo. If Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen comes back and goes on any type of sort of, rehab assignment to the Rochester Americans, they've got Levi there, they've got Georgiev there. The Buffalo Sabres could have 3 goalies in Rochester all on one-way contracts.
Yeah, that's wild. Hey, what about Alex Fine? He's been unreal for Buffalo here these last
He's been
games.
great.
That is crazy to have. They got a lot of goalie depth, I guess you could say. That would be their, hey, guys, we got a lot of goalie depth here. We got 5 goalies on one line. So that is something you don't see very often. Let's bring in Pat for buy or sell. Patty, how you doing?
Great. Thanks, Greg. So yeah, I'll jump right into it. Buy or sell. Presentation of Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app. Get in on the game. Use code NATION. Bet365 must be 19 or older. So I think pretty clear Detroit, maybe the biggest surprise so far this season to be leading their division 5-1. They're sitting right now with their win over the Oilers today. So buy or sell. The Red Wings are least likely to be leading their division by the end of the season, or do they have something here? Granted, the other teams leading their division, the Hurricanes, Avs, and Vegas, there's other tough teams in those divisions, whereas the Atlantic, they've got the Panthers coming up, Maple Leafs, Canadians. So what do you guys think, Greg's?
Detroit to win the division? Oof, that would be unexpected, but you know what? It's a long time coming. For Detroit, they're off to a good start. I know Gibson didn't like his first game, but then he just beat Tampa and Edmonton here the last 2 games. So he's playing well. Cam Talbot played very well in his 3 starts. And they won the last 2 without Patrick Kane. So that's good. Dylan Larkin's off to a fantastic start. Edmonton hardly generated anything up until maybe the last 10 minutes. Now, part of that, we can get into it later, is they struggle to even complete a pass right now. It's mind-blowing to me. But I'm going to sell on the Red Wings winning the division. I'm not there yet, but they look strong. I'll say that.
I want it to be right, Pat. Like I want that to happen. Like you want something that's just like bonkers in the NHL, and as someone that cheers for chaos of that nature, I'm all for what you're putting down. I can't see it. I think if there's going to be like a changing of the guard team to win the division, it's probably the Montreal Canadiens, who as Mike Rupp said on the last DFO Rundown podcast, it is flat out fun to watch too, and a big destination. A lot of good reasons. Like I'm a huge Marco Kasper fan. I think this kid is absolutely fantastic. The Emmett Finney story is tremendous. But Axel Sandin Pellikka, if we can just park just a couple of seconds here on this kid. For the longest time, and this goes back to Ken Holland's era, what did we always say about Detroit Red Wings players? Oh, they over-ripen in GR. Oh, they over-ripen in the America. Everybody goes to the American Hockey League. He played 2 games in Grand Rapids last year, and he's on the big team, and he's paired up with Simon Edvinsson. Like, that doesn't happen, let alone that doesn't happen with defensemen. With the Detroit Red Wings, that's how special this guy is. I still don't think that they have the defensive depth, Pat, to pull off what you're suggesting here. But, in a fantasy make-believe world that is sports, I think it would be super Wings won the division. I want to have the Red Wings back in the playoffs, because I don't even know that we call that rink a new arena anymore. It's just an arena that's never had playoffs. And that's sad, because it's a great building and it hasn't seen a postseason game. I think it's time that streak ends. Like for the longest time, everyone was like, oh, don't cry for the Detroit Red Wings. They had the long playoff streak. They picked up Stanley Cups. All these guys are going to the Hall of Fame. All these guys are super rich. Don't cry for the Red Wings now. Oh, the woes of the Detroit Red Wings. But I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of past that. And I do want to see the Wings in the playoffs now. I want to see those fans get rewarded, and I want to see a full building in Detroit. I just can't see them winning the division.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the division's a bit of a stretch, but certainly trending in the
fun.
right direction to win.
Fun to think about it.
Yeah, and
fun to think about it.
5-1 is absolutely a great start. The second one I have for you, the Lightning should be concerned about Vasilevsky, certainly one of the best goalies in the NHL. He's off to a tough start, yet to find a win, 0-2-2, an .886 save percentage, 350 goals against average. So is this a blip, or is there some concern for Vasilevsky? Reminder, he's only 31 years old. I'll start with you, Marek. Buy or sell that there's some concern here?
I'm going to sell, and here's why. Eventually it's going to happen, but every time that I bet against the Tampa Bay Lightning, I'm proved wrong. Every time I write them off, it's the cat that came back, right? Every time I write them off, every time I say, yeah, this guy's fried, this guy's cooked, this guy's done, he comes back and has a tremendous season. Oh, they're never going to survive without Stamkos. Oh, they're never going to, I'll tell you, they're never going to survive without Palat. Oh, they're never going to survive without, Sergachev. Oh, they're never going to insert it's interesting because the one player, just kind of going down a side road here, Pat, I apologize. The one player they realized that they really could not live without, and the one player that they went out again to bring is Ryan McDonagh. Like out of all those guys, the ones that you looked at and said, like, yeah, you know what, they need this guy back. It turned out to be Ryan McDonagh the entire time. And I know it's been a tough start for Vasilevsky at times last year. He didn't look like the future Hall of Famer that we all know that he is. I just worry that the minute I write Vasilevsky off, he's going to come back and turn into prime Vasilevsky again. Making scorpion saves and behind the back catches, the likes of which that we're all used to. So no, I'm not gonna write off Vasilevsky next.
Greg's.
Yeah, it's tough to sit there and say, okay, I'm concerned about Vasilevsky. If you look, like last year, he was unreal. I think he have a .920 save percentage at the end of the season for them. So too early to write him off, but I will say there's a little bit of concern. Tampa Bay's off to a sluggish start, and we talk about Detroit and all. Like eventually, there's going to be a change into the guard, right? It can't always be Toronto, Florida, and Tampa Bay. At some point, someone's going to come up. Ottawa made the playoffs last year. Montreal made the playoffs last year. And now Ottawa is off to a tough start, and the Tkachuk injury makes it even worse for them. But Tampa Bay, you just don't want to dig the hole too deep, is the way I would look at it for them. The good news for them, it's not like Toronto's killing it, and it's not like Florida's killing it. So if there was a team that you'd be more comfortable feeling you could catch, it would probably be Detroit.
Can I throw something in about Toronto? Can I throw something in real quick about, I don't want to jump on you here, Pat. This is your segment. Because Jason just mentioned Toronto for a second in playoffs. I had an interesting conversation with a coach a couple of weeks ago about the Maple Leafs. I'm curious what you guys think about this point. He said it's harder to be successful, and it's always easier to win when you have a couple of players on expiring contracts. He said, look at the Maple Leafs.
Yeah, because I know you mentioned that before, that they talk like, that's good. And I don't know, I'd like to look at that a little bit deeper. I don't know. I just thought it was it's from a coach. So it's not just like a saloon conversation. I don't know. I don't know if there's anything to it. I mean, philosophically, it kind of makes sense. Some people may have to squint a little bit more on that one than others, but I just thought it was an interesting one. No expiring contracts, and that's why the Maple Leafs are struggling. Now we got the goalie popping off about enough is enough. We'll see where they go.
Yeah, hopefully they can find something. I mean, 3-2-1. They're doing okay to start, but I mean, certainly higher expectations in Toronto. The last one I have for you, staying in that division, is with the Ottawa Senators. And I know we talked about Shane Pinto in the last episode, but right now leading the NHL in goals at 7. His career high last year was 21. So he's obviously found something with his game, and this is huge for Ottawa with Brady Tkachuk being out. So buy or sell, is Shane Pinto going to get to 30 goals this year? We'll start with you, Gregs.
I will buy on 30, 100%. I think he's going to keep rolling. He's off to a great start. Basically, in the final 76 games, he's got to match what he did last year pretty much, and he would get to 30. I think that Tkachuk being out longer, he's just going to be getting even more offensive opportunities. And, yeah, I will buy on Shane Pinto being a 30-goal man for the first time in his career.
In the prime of his career, right-hand shot, versatile player, great release, deceptive shot, seems to really be hitting his stride, high skill. I'll pick up what you're putting down. Shane Pinto, pencil me in for 30 goals and a breakout season for him. Like, what are you saying? 50 or 30 goals and 30 assists. He's a 60-point guy. Is that too much of a stretch, or is that too much of a jump? To me, that kind of feels like a sweet spot for Shane Pinto for me, even though right now he's got the Cy Young numbers going 7-1.
Yeah, well, with, like we mentioned, with Brady Tkachuk out, I mean, it would be huge for the Ottawa Senators if he can keep this role. And honestly, if they want to make it back to the playoffs, well, that is all I have for you. I thought that was a pretty good one. Buy or sell, brought to you by Bet365.
Awesome. Thanks, Patty.
Thanks, Pat.
Let's stick it out in the East. What'd you make of Brad Marchand? Is that just Brad Marchand, classic Marchand? He has the helmet of Dahlin. He rips off the ear guard. Dahlin's then got to change helmets. Use one of his teammates' helmets on the power play. Thought it was people are like, oh, that should be a suspension. Give me a break. It's not a suspension.
No.
At worst it might have been a fine. Like,
it's a fine. He got $5,000 fine.
Exactly. And so, like, he didn't, he wrestled with Dahlin, but there's nothing he did there that would worthy of a suspension. He's frustrated. I think Florida, funny enough, they got off to a great start, 3-0, and now they've lost 4 straight, and they haven't really played very well in any of those games. So I think that's probably, a little bit of a carryover of just some frustration. That team's like, hey, boys, we got to get going. But the Barkov Tkachuk, Jeff, I said at the start of the year, like, that is massive to overcome. 2 of your top 3 forwards are going to be out for a significant period of time. And it doesn't matter how deep your team is, it's going to be a challenge. And you see it, they're struggling to score goals right now. And I think if Florida's going to get back on track, they're going to have to be even better defensively, because without Barkov and Tkachuk, it's hard to just say, okay, everybody else elevate. You can do it for a while. I just don't think you can do it for 2.5 months.
Yeah. To the Brad Marchand, I think you nailed it with Marchand. First of all, I just looked at it and I was watching the game Saturday afternoon, and I just kind of laughed, Jason. I'm like, that's like old Marchand. Like, we thought what happened to all that stuff about how Brad Marchand has matured, and he's done with the antics, and he's done with the licking and the behind the knee pokes and all that rat bait. He's done with all that. He'll just play a good, rough, strong, tough game. He's done with all the extracurriculars, and now he's tearing off ear loops of Rasmus Dahlin's helmet, chucking it back. It was funny though, watching him put Dahlin put Peyton Krebs' helmet on for that power play that made me laugh. But I think you nailed it with, I don't think that was just Brad Marchand. That was Brad Marchand. I think that was him exposing how frustrated the Florida Panthers are right now. That was Brad Marchand saying, 5 minutes ago, we were all at the elbow room with the Stanley Cup, and now nothing's working. Now, every time we try to pass the puck, the puck has corners on our stick. It's not working. This is not us. We just breezed through, 2 Stanley Cup final appearance. I know we're down our captain and Matthew Tkachuk, but it's not supposed to be this hard for us. We're not supposed to be a team that has to grind for every single goal. We're the well-balanced team that can, outwork you and dazzle you with our plays. I think you're right. I think this is just emblematic of the frustration of the Florida Panthers. That's how I read it. The other thing that I would like to point out too, and this is one of the reasons why I love Rasmus Dahlin, he's a sneaky, dirty guy. Like we think of Rasmus Dahlin, great skater, smooth, like he's going to be in the conversation for the Norris for a long time. I had him picked as a Norris Trophy winner this year. Figured I'd have some fun with it and call Rasmus Dahlin, but I really do believe that he's up amongst the upper echelon in the NHL amongst defensemen. Let's not forget too, like that guy's not shy. You know, he's not going to be Larry Playfair or Jerry Korab on the Buffalo Sabres blue line. He's not going to be tough, but he's going to be like, he's not shy about giving you a shot. And you just saw it in that highlight with Brad Marchand. I love him, you know, and I have no problem with a defenseman playing like that, especially not someone with as high skill as Rasmus Dahlin. But I just looked at that and said, $5,000 cost of doing that was just the return of the old Brad Marchand, just reminding us, I guess, that's still in there. What's the Hotel California line, Jason? You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. There's still some of the old Brad Marchand still in there. We saw that Saturday.
And so you look, the Panthers have scored 15 goals in 7 games this year. And they started out the season 3-0, and they just their offense has dried up the last 4 games. They've lost them all. They're tied with the Rangers for 30th at 2.14 goals per game. Only the Flames are below them. And the other Stanley Cup finalist is currently tied for 28th with Nashville, the Edmonton Oilers. And they've only got 15 goals in 6 games. And, you know, Noah Phillips scored 2 of them. Curtis Lazar's played 1 game. He scored 1. They got no goals from McDavid. Draisaitl does have some goals. Finally did score 5-on-5. But I don't know how much, if you watch, I know you're at that Washington game. So I don't know if you saw much of the Edmonton-Detroit game. But I didn't see it.
I didn't see his helmet back.
Like Edmonton's been on a 4-game road trip out east. And if it wasn't for Stuart Skinner standing on his head against the Rangers, they'd be 0-4. They have not looked good. They can't pass the puck right now. McDavid refuses to shoot the puck from the slot area. It's kind of wild. And it's early on. I get it. And Edmonton's been terrible the last few years out of the gate, and they made it to the Stanley Cup final. So maybe they're saying, hey, it doesn't matter. But it's interesting to me to see just how lethargic, I think that's an accurate portrayal, lethargic Edmonton's offense is. And history tells us that the Stanley Cup loser outside of Boston the last decade and a bit struggles out of the gate. And now they go into Ottawa, and you have 2 teams struggling. They're going to meet up on Tuesday. It's kind of interesting for me to see where Edmonton goes, because their head coach might have to sit some of his veterans, because you can't just keep sitting the young guys, because some of the young players are actually giving you a little bit more juice.
Do you think, and you mentioned something earlier in the show that I think is bang on, and that is passes to the forwards. Getting the puck up to the forwards seems to be an issue. Like you can recall, because you were right there back in the era of Taylor Hall and Jordan Eberle and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. You had all this explosive firepower, but no one can get them the puck. So you never really knew how good these guys could be, because they spent the entire time in their own zone. Like, how good? Don't know. How good is Ryan Nugent-Hopkins? Don't know. How good is Jordan Eberle? Don't know, because no one can get them the puck. Now, I'm not saying that the Oilers are back there, right? It is better than that, but I think there is something to it. And there's also something that someone mentioned to me a while ago, and it's an interesting stat. If you look at shots per 60, okay, shots per 60 in the NHL, the Oilers have 3 defensemen in the top 15. Evan Bouchard, we all expect, like, dude shoots a lot. Darnell Nurse and Matthias Ekholm. You know, I remember having a conversation with someone about Pete DeBoer's teams and how he's one of those coaches that likes shots from the point, but his defensemen always shoot for rebounds. They don't shoot to score. Do you think, and again, I just asked this rhetorically, I don't know the answer to this, and it might be a league-wide issue too, but are we at a place in hockey where we're now saying to ourselves, defensemen are shooting too much? Knowing where goals are scored and how goals are scored, if you have 3 defensemen in the top 15 in shots per 60, does that tell you something? And should Matthias Ekholm be there? Like, should Matthias Ekholm be in the top 15 shots per 60? I would submit no.
Yeah, well, that's not this season, is it?
Yeah.
Really? I have to look. Wow, that's like amongst all, like, because Bouchard has 21 shots, Ekholm has 14, Nurse has.
It's not just the shots. It's shots per 60. Shots per 60 minutes. Not just the
at 5-on-5 you're
shots
talking?
at 5-on-5.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's never ideal, but if you look
Again, like
if you watch
I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just saying, like, I'm at a loss for answers. So at this point, I'm throwing out things you hear because this is an Oilers team that shouldn't struggle. I'm fine with Bouchard bombing it all he wants. Go for it, absolutely. I just don't know that everybody should be doing that.
Point shots with no one in front is a lot of times a wasted shot, right? I would agree with that. And so you got to have traffic in front. One of the goals, Noah Philp was in front, deflected Kulak's goal. It goes in. I find too often you've got no one in front of the net, and like they miss Zach Hyman. Their net front offense is almost non-existent. But to me, actually, I thought, like, outletting the puck today, Edmonton's forwards and defense, there were so many missed passes. And I'll rewatch the game and I would count it, Jeff. No joke. I'm going to count at least 40 where you had a guy open and you put the 40 pass off, at least off of his stick, in his skates. It was horrific. Like, there was a shift where I counted 6 on one shift. They just can't pass the puck.
This does happen early in the season, not just with teams that go to the Stanley Cup final, but that's why we always throw in the caveat. It's early. Listen, to the game that I was at the Sunday afternoon between the Capitals and the Vancouver Canucks, like, there's a lot of passes that you see in October that you're not going to see in January. Like, no chance. Like, the only team. Well, Mike Rupp was mentioning it on the last rundown show. The Carolina Hurricanes. Like they're miles ahead of everybody else in terms of pace, in terms of clicking, and like all of it. Carolina's just like hit the ground running. I do have a thought on that one and a theory on it too. But this is just what we see all the time at the beginning of the season. Like, that's why we get all these bloated scores. We go, oh, look, scoring's back in the NHL. Well, no, it's the beginning of the season. It's sloppy play. It's only a matter of, like, varying degrees. Edmonton's going to have its own kind of sloppy. Vancouver's going to have its own kind of sloppy. Some things are related to injuries, and that's going to relate to their sloppy. But that's kind of the beginning of this. That's sloppy. And outside of Carolina, I haven't seen a team that's come close to hitting their stride for 3 full periods. There have been plenty of games where you're like, oh, you know what? The Dallas Stars just had 2 great periods, or the Montreal Canadiens just had 2 great periods. But Carolina is really the only team that I've seen throw 3 great periods together in a game. So
repeatedly.
Yeah. Carolina is just like, they've done such a masterful job at turning this team over and still remaining competitive, specifically the blue line. And here's the question. Is it the coach that shines them up, or is it the general manager that only brings in players that can play this style of game, right? Like, I look at Keandre Miller, for example. Looks great with Carolina, but that fits all of his skill sets. Right. And if Keandre Miller is like a lumbering, big, strong, tough defenseman who's just going to, cross check you to hell in the front of the net, he's not going to be a Carolina Hurricane. But if he can skate, if he can move, he might be smaller. That's what the Carolina Hurricanes are.
So I got a question for you, though. When it comes to the Hurricanes, and I know Mike Rupp said he spoke to people, he said, man, they're ahead of other teams right now, no question. If you watch how they play it, I think the proof is in the pudding. Yeah. The one criticism has been about Carolina is they play the same way in game 81 as they do, or sorry, game 1 as they do in 81 as they do in 89 or 90, talking into the playoffs. And do they get worn out, or can they take their regular season game, and does it have another step to go in the playoffs? And if you look at the last few years, I think it's a valid question to ask. Is other teams, they'll muddle their way through at different times, and then the last month of the season, or they get to the playoffs and they elevate their game. And there's questions that Carolina hasn't. Do you think those are valid?
Well, I mean, have a look at the proof, right? This is a team that goes to the conference final. This is a team that, and that's not anything to turn your nose up at. Like it's hard to get the conference final. It's really hard to get the conference final. And they've been there, but we don't know. But right now the answer is no. But right now, once again, this is a different Carolina Hurricanes team. This is a team that, was able to get Nick Ehlers by offering the extra year. This is a team that, as we saw with Mikko Rantanen last year, and previous with players like Jack Eichel, like they're in there swinging for big name players. Eric Tulsky's been given the keys to the Chevy and told, go for it. You know what? Big name players available. Go for it. If someone's available, we're interested. Tom Dundon very much firmly believes in having stars there. So I don't think that by any way, shape, or form Eric Tulsky is done. But historically, you're exactly right. This is a team that's been good enough to get to the conference final. Can they get it over that line and get into the Stanley Cup final? The defense is a little bit different. I know Nikishin's a rookie, but he looks really good. I've already talked about Keandre Miller and how I feel about that player. I think you need to make sure the goaltenders stay healthy. That's going to be a massive one, as it always is for the Carolina Hurricanes. And you hope that, Nick Ehlers is good for what ails you and increased offense. But historically, you're right. They haven't been able to get into the Stanley Cup. They're a team that's and the other thing we should say too about, you brought up, fatigue and being tired. Playing man to man is hard. And that's why
it's very hard.
That's why the Carolina, I've always said this about Carolina, the Carolina Hurricanes are an acquired taste, right? You're either a fan of the Carolina Hurricanes because you live there, or you have to really love what they're doing to be a fan of the Carolina Hurricanes, because it's really hard. And it's not the most exciting brand of hockey, except where, and I've always told people this, if you're going to a Carolina Hurricanes hockey game, sit up high. Don't sit down. If you sit up high, it's fascinating to watch what happens in Carolina's man-to-man system. I saw this when I went to the Carolina-Washington series last year in the spring. You really saw it sitting up in Popcorn Row. When you play man-to-man and there's a turnover, there's a lot of ice out there. Everyone's playing zone, so nothing's clogged. So when the puck turns over, you're like, holy smokes, where did all this ice come from? All of a sudden, like you take 3-4 strides to the net if the puck turns over. It's interesting to watch, but again, I understand it's an acquired taste. I dig it. I don't think there's one specific way to be successful. Carolina has their own way to play hockey, and they seem like they're gonna stick to their philosophy.
Well, they're off to a great start. They're the only undefeated team left in the National Hockey League. We'll see if they can match the Jets, who went 8-0 to start last season. Jeff, enjoy Washington. We will chat with you next week on the Rundown.
Can I ask you a question before we go?
Yeah.
Who was your favorite Buffalo Sabre of all time? You got the shirt on. I'm going to ask.
Well,
Favorite Sabre.
You know what? I got the shirt because I was a huge Tage Thompson fan. And the Sabres have been terrible for so long. And so in this generation, I go Tage Thompson. But if I'm going, like the greatest Buffalo Sabre, obviously, is Dominic Hasek. I think in his prime, I don't think there's ever a better player than him. Like he was such a freak athlete as a goaltender and how he played. But I actually, honestly, I'm gonna go off the board here, and I'm gonna go with Rick Jeanneret, because I loved how he called the games. And Mayday, Mayday, Mayday is one of my favorite calls of all time. And I knew Rick, like, rest in peace. He was a beauty of a guy. Yep. And so I'm gonna go off the board. I'm gonna say Rick Jeanneret.
I love it. That's an aces answer for me. I'm not going to top that one, even though, as I mentioned earlier, I grew up with the voice of Ted Darling. And I always thought it was the greatest thrill that his son Joel was back in 2007 as executive producer of Hockey Night in Canada. Him and Scott Moore were the guys that hired me at Hockey Night. I was like, I remember getting home like, Joel freaking Darling just hired me at Hockey Night in Canada. I was the biggest Ted Darling fan. He's always like trying to play cool with my enthusiasm for how much I loved his dad, his late father, who had the great call, not the first but the second play-by-play voice of the Buffalo Sabres.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeffrey. Thanks, everyone. That's the rundown brought to you by Bet365. Have a great week.
Hey, hockey fans, if you enjoyed that video, then make sure you hit the subscribe button right here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube. We have you covered for everything you need. Exclusive interviews on The Sheet with Jeff Marek, all the latest hockey news on Daily Faceoff Live, and you can always get your morning started with Johnny Lazarus and Colby Cohn on Morning Cup of Hockey. Don't miss a minute. Hit that subscribe button.